Every night, my wife quietly walked into our son's room. At first, I thought it was just a mother checking on her child. But one night, curiosity got the best of me. I set up a hidden camera. And when I watched the footage the next morning, I saw something I can never unsee. Before we go any further, take a second to subscribe, hit the hype button and like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And tell us in the comments, what would you do in this situation? I'm Daniel Buttler, 60 years old, slow with smartphones, fast with anything that needs a wrench. The kid at the hardware store set up the camera for me, said, "Just press this, sir." I pressed it, left it running on my dresser, angled toward the hallway. The footage showed my wife, Lila, whispering instructions to our son, Howard. Not bedtime comfort. Strategy. How to switch my pill caps. How to unlock my phone with my sleeping face. How to describe me as dangerous if police ever show up. She placed a wax-cast key in his palm, a perfect copy of my safe key. That's when I stopped being their father and became their target. I watched that video 3 times. Each time, my hands got steadier, calmer. The anger turned into something colder, something more useful. I'd spent 35 years running construction sites, managing crews who'd steal copper wire if you blinked. I knew how to read people. I knew how to plan, but I never thought I'd have to do it in my own house. The camera stayed hidden. I kept going to work, kept eating dinner at the same table, kept sleeping in the same bed. Lila smiled at me like she always did. That thin, practiced smile that used to mean comfort, but now looked like calculation. Howard barely looked at me anymore. 19 years old and already learning to lie with his whole body. I started checking things. My medication bottles first. The labels were right, but when I opened them, the pills inside were slightly different colors. Close, but not exact. Someone had been swapping them, slowly, carefully. My office next. Papers were missing. Bank statements, property deeds, insurance documents, not all of them, just enough to make me look disorganized, forgetful, the kind of man who might need help managing his own affairs. Then I found the doctor's letters. They were in Lila's desk drawer, tucked under a stack of grocery coupons. 3 letters from a psychiatrist I'd never met, all dated within the last month. Each one described concerning behaviors, memory loss, mood swings, aggressive outbursts. Each one recommended a competency evaluation. I'd never spoken to this doctor, never been to his office, but someone had been there, pretending to be me. I took photos of everything with my phone, the old flip kind that still uses a memory card. Then I put it all back exactly where I found it. That night, Lila made pot roast, my favorite. She served it with a smile and asked about my day. "Fine," I said. "You seem tired," she said. "Maybe you should rest more." "Maybe." Howard ate without speaking, eyes on his plate. After dinner, I went to my office and locked the door. I pulled out the paperwork I kept in my desk, the real documents, the ones they hadn't found yet, property titles, business licenses, bank account information. Everything was still there, but not for long. I heard footsteps in the hallway, Lila's voice, soft and sweet. "Daniel, are you coming to bed?" "In a minute." The footsteps moved away. I sat there in the dark, thinking about the footage, about the key, about how long this had been planned. Then I heard something else. My daughter's voice. Brooke. 26 years old, married to a guy named Travis, who called himself an entrepreneur but mostly just borrowed money. She lived across town but visited every Sunday. Except it wasn't Sunday. I opened the door a crack and listened. "Needs to be soon," Brooke was saying, "before he figures it out." "He won't," Lila said. "He barely knows how to check his email." "What about Ruth?" "She hasn't called in months. She's not a problem." Ruth Ellison, my late wife's best friend, the only person in my life who'd known me longer than Lila had. I closed the door and sat back down. So it wasn't just Lila and Howard. It was all of them. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a legal pad, started writing names, dates, events, everything I could remember that felt wrong over the past 6 months. The list got long fast. By the time I finished, it was past midnight. The house was quiet. I folded the list and put it in my wallet, right behind my driver's license. Then I went to bed. Lila was already asleep, or pretending to be. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, and started planning. Not revenge, not yet. First, I had to survive. The next morning, I got a phone call. "Mr. Buttler, this is the county clerk's office. We have a notice for you regarding an emergency hearing." My hand tightened on the phone. "What kind of hearing?" "Guardianship proceedings, filed by your spouse. The hearing is scheduled for next Friday at 9 a.m. "Guardianship." "Yes, sir. You should have received the paperwork by certified mail." I hadn't, but I knew where it was. "Thank you," I said, and hung up. Lila was in the kitchen, making coffee. She looked up when I walked in. "Who was that?" "Wrong number." She smiled. "You look tired." "I'm fine." "Maybe you should see a doctor." I poured myself coffee and left the room. In 1 week, I'd be legally incompetent, stripped of my rights, my business, my property, everything. In 1 week, Lila would have full control, unless I moved first. I spent the morning at my office, a small building near the industrial park where I ran my contracting business. 2 employees, both guys I'd worked with for years. Good men. Honest. I didn't tell them anything. Instead, I started moving documents. Quietly, carefully. Contracts, invoices, client lists. Everything that proved I was still running things, still competent, still in control. I made copies at the print shop down the street, paid cash, put the originals in a fireproof box and locked it in my truck. Then I went to the bank. "I need to open a new safe deposit box," I told the teller. "Of course, Mr. Buttler. May I ask why you're opening a second one?" "Organization," I said. She smiled and processed the paperwork. I transferred everything from the old box to the new one, the one Lila didn't know about, the one her wax key couldn't open. Then I filled the old box with outdated tax returns and expired insurance policies. Nothing valuable, nothing useful, but enough to look real. By noon, I was done. I drove home and found Howard in the garage, going through my toolbox. "Looking for something?" I asked. He jumped. Just borrowing a screwdriver." "Which one?" Flathead?" I walked past him and opened the toolbox, pulled out a flathead screwdriver and handed it to him. "Thanks," he said, not meeting my eyes. I watched him leave, watched him glance back at the toolbox like he wanted to try again. Then I went inside. Lila was on the phone in the living room. She saw me and smiled, then turned away and lowered her voice. I went to my office and locked the door again. The paperwork from the county was sitting on my desk, not in an envelope, just sitting there, like someone had pulled it from the mail and left it for me to find. Emergency petition for guardianship. I read through it slowly. The petition claimed I was suffering from cognitive decline, that I'd become forgetful, confused, potentially dangerous, that I needed someone to manage my affairs for my own safety. 3 letters of support were attached, one from the psychiatrist, one from Brooke, describing incidents where I'd forgotten conversations or become irrationally angry, one from Howard, claiming I'd threatened him during an argument. None of it was true, but it was all documented. I took photos of every page. Then I put the paperwork back on the desk, exactly where I'd found it. That night, Lila suggested we have a family dinner. "Just us," she said, "and Brooke and Travis. It's been too long." "Sure," I said. She looked surprised. "Really? Why not?" Her smile widened. "I'll call them now." I nodded and went back to my office. The dinner was a trap. I knew that. They'd use it to establish more evidence, more moments of forgetfulness, more signs of decline. They'd ask me questions I couldn't answer, then act concerned when I hesitated. They'd create a scene and record it. so I started recording first. The hardware store kid had sold me a small audio recorder, voice-activated. I put it in my shirt pocket and tested it twice. Then I waited. Brooke and Travis arrived at 6. Brooke hugged me like everything was normal. Travis shook my hand and called me sir in that fake respectful way that made my skin crawl. We sat down to eat. The first 20 minutes were fine. Small talk, weather, work. Brooke talked about a new client at her PR firm. Travis mentioned some investment opportunity. Then Lila turned to me. Daniel, do you remember what we talked about last Tuesday? I looked at her. Refresh my memory. About the refinancing, for the house. We didn't talk about refinancing. Yes, we did. You said you'd call the bank. I didn't say that. She glanced at Brooke, a quick, practiced look, then back to me. Daniel, we had a whole conversation about it. You were standing right here in the kitchen. No, we didn't. Dad, Brooke said gently. I was here too. I heard you. I turned to her. When? Last Tuesday, around noon. I wasn't home last Tuesday at noon. I was at a job site in Riverside. Silence. Lila's smile tightened. Daniel, you're confused. You were here. No, I wasn't. Travis leaned forward. Maybe you're misremembering, sir. I looked at him. Maybe you should stay out of it. Dad, Brooke started. I have the job log, I said calmly. Time-stamped photos, GPS data. I was in Riverside from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., not here. Another silence. Howard stared at his plate. Lila's face shifted, just for a second. The warmth drained out. Then it came back, forced and brittle. Well, she said, maybe I was mistaken. Maybe. The rest of dinner was tense, quiet. Brooke tried to restart the conversation a few times, but it didn't work. Travis kept looking at his phone. By 8, they were gone. I went to my office and played back the recording. Every word, crystal clear. I saved it to 3 different memory cards and put 2 of them in the new safe deposit box the next day. The 3rd I gave to Ruth. I called her that night, late after Lila had gone to bed. Daniel? She sounded surprised. It's been months. I know. I need a favor. What's going on? I told her. Not everything. Just enough. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Jesus, she said finally. Are you sure? I have proof. What do you need? Information, legal stuff, how guardianship works, what I can do. I know a lawyer. Good one. I'll call him tomorrow. Thank you. Daniel, she said, be careful. I will. I hung up and sat there in the dark. The hearing was in 5 days. 5 days to prepare, 5 days to turn this around. The next morning, I found a notice taped to my office door. Temporary restraining order, filed by Lila, effective immediately. I wasn't allowed within 500 feet of the house, or my office, or any of my business properties. I read it twice. Then I got in my truck and drove to a motel on the edge of town. The motel was called the Sunrise Inn, which was optimistic considering it faced a tire shop and a closed-down Arby's. $40 a night. No questions asked. The clerk didn't even look up when I paid cash for a week. The room smelled like old cigarettes and cleaning solution, but it had a table, a bed, and a lock that worked. That was enough. I spread my documents across the table, everything I'd pulled from the office, everything from the safe deposit box. Then I added the photos I'd taken and the recordings I'd made. It looked like the investigation board from a TV show, except this was real. And I was running out of time. Ruth called at noon. I talked to the lawyer, she said. His name's Frank Carver. He can meet you today. Where? His office, 2 p.m. I'll text you the address. Thank you. Daniel, are you okay? I'm fine. No, you're not. But I get it. Just call me if you need anything. I will. I hung up and stared at the documents. Then I started packing. Frank Carver's office was in a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax prep place. The sign on the door said, Carver and Associates, Family Law. I went inside. The receptionist looked up. Mr. Buttler? Yes. He's expecting you. Frank Carver was in his 50s, gray hair, tired eyes. He gestured to a chair and I sat. Ruth told me what's happening, he said. Let's see what you've got. I handed him the documents. He read through them slowly, occasionally making notes. After 20 minutes, he looked up. This is good, he said. Really good. They're overconfident. They think you won't fight back. Can I stop the hearing? No, but you can win it. How? He leaned back in his chair. Guardianship requires proof of incapacity. Medical evidence, behavioral patterns. They've got letters, but they're thin. If you show up coherent, organized, and able to present evidence, the judge will see through it. What kind of evidence? The recordings help, the job logs, anything that shows you're competent and functional. But here's the thing. You also need to show that their claims are false. Not just wrong, false, deliberately misleading. I can do that. Good. Because if you can prove they're lying, this whole thing falls apart. And then? He smiled. Then you file your own petition, restraining order, fraud investigation, maybe even criminal charges if the evidence is strong enough. How long will that take? Months. Maybe longer. I shook my head. I don't have months. Then you need leverage. What kind? The kind that makes them stop. I thought about that. Can you be at the hearing? I asked. I can, but I need a retainer first. 2,000. I pulled out my wallet and counted out 20s. He didn't blink. I'll see you Friday, he said. I left the office and drove back to the motel. When I got there, someone was waiting in the parking lot. Travis. He was leaning against my truck, arms crossed, sunglasses on, trying to look intimidating. I parked and got out. We need to talk, he said. No, we don't. Lila's worried about you. I'm sure she is. He pushed off the truck and stepped closer. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Am I? Just sign the papers, Daniel. Make it easy on everyone. Get away from my truck. He didn't move. You're not thinking straight, that's the whole problem. I looked at him. Really looked. 31 years old, overpriced haircut, fake confidence. The kind of guy who thought intimidation was the same as power. If you're still here in 10 seconds, I said, I'm calling the police. For what? Harassment? Trespassing? Take your pick. He smiled. You really think they'll believe you? I think they'll check the security cameras. I nodded toward the motel office. And I think you'll have a hard time explaining why you're here. His smile faded. He got in his car, a leased BMW with dealer plates, and drove off. I watched him go. Then I went inside and called the motel clerk. Do those cameras actually work? I asked. Sometimes, he said. Good enough. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. Tomorrow they empty your safe. Don't be late. I stared at it for a long time. Then I called Ruth. Did you send me a text? I asked. No, why? Someone just warned me about the safe. Daniel, you need to be careful. I know. No, I mean really careful. If they're watching you. They are. Then you need to stay ahead of them. I hung up and looked at the documents on the table. She was right. I needed to move faster. The next morning, I drove to the house, parked across the street, watched. Lila left at 8:30. Howard left at 9. Brooke arrived at 9:15. She had a key. I waited. At 9:30, Brooke came out carrying a cardboard box. She put it in her car and went back inside. I counted to 60. Then I got out of the truck and walked up the driveway. The front door was unlocked. I went inside. Brooke was in my office, going through the desk. The safe was open, the old one, the one with the wax key copy. She was pulling out papers and putting them in the box. Find anything good? I asked. She screamed and spun around. Dad, Jesus, you scared me. What are you doing? I was just taking my documents. No, I was organizing. Put them back. Dad, now. She stared at me. Then she put the papers back in the box and picked it up. I'm leaving, she said. No, you're not. You can't keep me here. You're stealing from me, Brooke. That's a felony. Her face went pale. I'm not stealing. Mom asked me to take documents from my safe without permission. She has legal authority. No, she doesn't. Not yet. Brooke's hands shook. The box wobbled. Dad, please, just let me go. Put the box on the desk. Dad, now. She put it down. I walked over and looked inside. Tax returns, bank statements, property deeds, the ones I'd left as decoys, nothing important. But she didn't know that. Get out, I said. She left. I waited until I heard her car start. Then I went to the safe and closed it. The room was exactly as I'd left it. Nothing disturbed except the safe. They were getting sloppy. I locked the office door from the inside and called Frank Carver. They just tried to take documents from my house, I said. Did you stop them? Yes? Good. File a police report. Will that help? It creates a record, shows a pattern. Do it today. I hung up and drove to the police station. The officer at the desk looked bored. What can I do for you? I need to report a theft attempt. What was stolen? Nothing. I stopped it. He sighed and pulled out a form. Name. I told him everything. He wrote it down, asked for evidence. I showed him the photos of the documents, the text from the unknown number, the timestamp from my truck's GPS showing I was at the house. Why would your daughter steal from you? He asked. She's helping my wife file a guardianship petition. He looked up. That's a civil matter. The theft isn't. He finished the form and handed me a copy. We'll investigate, but unless there's clear evidence of a crime, there's not much we can do. This is evidence of an attempt, not a crime. I took the report and left. It wasn't much, but it was something. The hearing was in 3 days. 3 days to prepare. 3 days to make sure I didn't lose everything. That night, I got another text. Travis photographed your truck. VIN and plates. Watch your back. I deleted the text and turned off the phone. Then I went to bed. But I didn't sleep. I woke up at 4 a.m. to the sound of a truck engine. Not mine. I looked out the motel window and saw a white pickup in the parking lot. Too far away to see the plates, but close enough to tell someone was sitting in the driver's seat. Watching. I got dressed, grabbed my keys, and walked outside. The truck's engine started. It pulled out of the lot and disappeared down the street before I could get a clear look. I went back inside and checked my phone. No messages, no missed calls. But the feeling didn't leave. I packed everything into my truck, documents, recordings, the fireproof box, checked out of the motel, drove to a different one 3 towns over. This one was called the Roadside Rest. $50 a night. The clerk barely glanced at me. Same routine, new room, same work. I spread the documents across the bed and started organizing them by date. Medical records first, job logs second, financial statements third. Everything I needed to prove I was competent. Everything I needed to show they were lying. By noon, I had it sorted. By 2 p.m., I had it memorized. At 3, Frank Carver called. Change of plans, he said. The hearing's been moved. When? Today, 5 p.m. My chest tightened. That's in 2 hours. I know. They filed an emergency motion. Judge approved it. Can they do that? They did. We need to be there. I'm an hour away. Then leave now. I grabbed the documents and ran. The courthouse was downtown, a gray stone building with marble steps and metal detectors at the entrance. I got there at 4:30. Frank was waiting outside. Ready? He asked. No. Good. That means you're taking this seriously. We went inside. The courtroom was small. Wood-paneled walls, fluorescent lights, a judge's bench at the front. Lila was already there, sitting with a lawyer I didn't recognize. Brooke sat behind her. Howard sat next to Brooke. Travis wasn't there. I sat down next to Frank. The judge came in, a woman in her 60s, sharp eyes, no-nonsense expression. She looked at the paperwork in front of her and then at the room. "This is an emergency guardianship hearing for Daniel Buttler," she said. "Let's begin." Lila's lawyer stood up. His name was Mitchell Gaines, according to the nameplate on the table. Expensive suit, smooth voice. "Your Honor, we're here because Mr. Buttler is suffering from significant cognitive decline. His behavior has become erratic. He's forgotten important conversations. He's made irrational decisions. He needs assistance." The judge looked at me. "Mr. Buttler, do you have representation?" Frank stood. "Yes, Your Honor. Frank Carver, representing Mr. Buttler." "Proceed." Gaines started presenting his case. He read from the psychiatrist's letters, showed the statements from Brooke and Howard, described incidents where I'd supposedly forgotten appointments or become angry without cause. It was all lies, but it sounded convincing. The judge listened without expression. When Gaines finished, she turned to Frank. "Your response?" Frank stood and pulled out the job logs. "Your Honor, Mr. Buttler is a successful contractor with a 35-year career. He manages multiple projects simultaneously. He maintains detailed records. He has no history of cognitive decline." He handed the logs to the judge. She flipped through them. "These show that Mr. Buttler was at a job site during the time his family claims he was home making irrational statements. They show consistent, organized work. They show competence." Gaines stood up. "Your Honor, these could be fabricated. They're time-stamped and GPS verified," Frank said. The judge looked at Gaines. "Do you have evidence that they're false?" "No, Your Honor, but—" "Then sit down." He sat. Frank continued. "Furthermore, Your Honor, we have recordings that contradict the family's claims." He pulled out a small speaker and played the dinner recording. Lila's voice. Brooke's voice. The conversation about the refinancing that never happened. The judge's expression didn't change, but her eyes narrowed. When the recording finished, she looked at Lila. "Mrs. Buttler, can you explain this?" Lila stood. "Your Honor, I may have been mistaken about the date. You claimed he was confused. This recording suggests you were the one making false statements." I didn't mean—" "Sit down." Lila sat. The judge looked at Frank. "Anything else?" "Yes, Your Honor. We also have a police report showing that members of Mr. Buttler's family attempted to remove documents from his home without permission." He handed the report to the judge. She read it. Then she looked at Gaines. "Did you know about this?" "No, Your Honor." "Did your client?" Lila shifted in her seat. "Said nothing." The judge put the report down. "This petition is denied," she said. "Mr. Buttler is clearly competent. Furthermore, I'm ordering a full investigation into the claims made by the petitioner. If evidence of fraud is found, this court will take appropriate action." Gaines stood. "Your Honor." "We're done here." She left. The room was silent. Then Lila turned and walked out. Brooke followed. Howard stayed in his seat, staring at the floor. Frank turned to me. "You okay?" "Yeah. Good. Because this isn't over." "I know." We left the courthouse. Outside, Lila was standing on the steps with Gaines. She saw me and her face twisted. "This isn't finished," she said. "Yes, it is." "You think you've won?" "I think you lost." She stepped closer. "You have no idea what's coming." "Neither do you." She turned and walked away. Gaines followed. Brooke stood at the bottom of the steps, watching. When Lila was gone, she looked at me. "Dad, don't." "I didn't know it would go this far." "Yes, you did." She looked away. I got in my truck and drove back to the motel. When I got there, I sat in the parking lot for a long time. The hearing was over. I'd won. But Frank was right. This wasn't over. That night, I filed a new motion with the court. Investigation into possible medication tampering, fraud, forgery, and a restraining order against Lila. Then I turned off my phone and went to bed. For the first time in weeks, I slept through the night. Morning came with rain, the kind that turned parking lots into lakes and made windshield wipers useless. I sat in the motel room drinking gas station coffee, staring at the documents I'd organized and reorganized a dozen times. The hearing was over. I'd won, but the war wasn't. Lila had been planning this for months. She wouldn't stop because a judge said no. She'd regroup. She'd find another angle. She'd come at me harder. So I had to move first. I called Ruth. "How'd it go?" she asked. "I won. Thank God." "It's not over." "I know. What do you need?" "Help. Evidence. I need to know how deep this goes." "I'll make some calls." "Thank you." I hung up and started packing. The motel was too exposed, too easy to find. I needed somewhere safer. I drove to a storage facility on the edge of town, paid cash for a month, moved everything from the truck into the unit, documents, recordings, the fireproof box. Then I went to the bank. "I need to access my safe deposit box," I told the teller. She checked the account. "Which one?" "The new one." She led me to the vault. I opened the box and pulled out the copies I'd made. Everything was still there. I added the police report, the hearing transcripts, and Frank's notes. Then I locked it and left. Next stop, the hardware store. The kid who'd sold me the camera was working the register. He looked up when I walked in. "Need another camera?" he asked. "No, I need something else." "Like what?" "Dash cam. Something that records automatically. Good quality." He nodded and walked me to the aisle. 20 minutes later, I had a dash cam, a second audio recorder, and a lockbox for my truck. "You doing okay, sir?" the kid asked while ringing me up. "Getting there. Good luck." I installed the dash cam in the parking lot, ran the wire under the dash, tested it twice. It worked. Then I drove to my office. The restraining order was still in effect, but only for Lila, not for me. I parked out front and went inside. My employees, Marcus and Jimmy, looked up when I walked in. "Boss," Marcus said, "where've you been?" "Dealing with some things." "We heard about the restraining order." "It's handled." They exchanged glances. "What do you need us to do?" Jimmy asked. "Keep working. I'll be back in a few days." "You sure?" "Yeah." I went to my desk and pulled out the client files. Everything was still there. No one had broken in. No one had taken anything. I locked the files in the truck and left. On the way out, I saw someone sitting in a car across the street, Travis. He wasn't hiding. He was just sitting there, watching. I got in my truck and pulled out. He followed. I drove slow, let him stay close, watched him in the mirror. He was on the phone, probably calling Lila, probably giving her updates. I turned onto a side street. He followed. Then I turned onto another street, and another. He stayed behind me the whole time. Finally, I pulled into a parking lot behind a closed warehouse, shut off the engine, got out. Travis parked 20 feet away. He got out too. "You're following me," I said. "Just making sure you're okay." "I'm fine." "Doesn't look like it." I walked toward him. "You need to leave." "Or what?" "Or I'll call the police." He smiled. "For what? I'm just driving." "You're stalking me." "Prove it." I pulled out my phone and took a photo, then another. License plate. His face. The car. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Creating evidence." His smile faded. "You really think anyone will care?" "I think you're about to find out." I got back in my truck and drove off. In the mirror, I saw him standing in the parking lot, staring after me. The dash cam had recorded everything. That night, I met Frank at a diner off the highway. "I'm filing harassment charges," I said. "Against Travis?" "Yes." I showed him the photos, the dash cam footage, the pattern. He looked through it all. This is good, but it's circumstantial. What do I need? More. Threats. Physical contact. Something concrete. He blocked me into a parking lot. That's better. Did he touch you? No. Did he threaten you? Not directly. Frank leaned back in his seat. Here's the problem, Daniel. Harassment cases are hard to prove. You need a pattern of behavior that's clearly aggressive. Right now, he's just following you. That's creepy, but not illegal. So what do I do? Keep recording, keep documenting, and stay out of situations where he can escalate. What if he does escalate? Then you call the police immediately. Don't engage, don't fight back, just record and report. I nodded. One more thing, Frank said. The investigation into the guardianship case is moving forward. The judge ordered a review of the medical claims. If they're false, and I think they are, Lila could face charges. How long will that take? Weeks. Maybe months. That's too long. I know. But the system moves slow. I paid for the coffee and left. On the way back to the motel, I saw the white truck again. Same one from before. Parked on the side of the road, engine off. I drove past, watched it in the mirror. It didn't follow, but I knew it would. The next morning, I got a call from Ruth. I found something, she said. What? Lila's been seeing a financial planner, guy named Victor Ramsey, specializes in estate planning. When? Last month, right before she filed the guardianship petition. Why does that matter? Because estate planning is what you do when you're preparing to take control of someone else's assets. I felt my chest tighten. She was planning this from the start. Looks like it. Can you find out more? I'll try. But Daniel, be careful. If she's working with a financial planner, she's got more resources than we thought. I'll be careful. I hung up and stared at the wall. This wasn't just about control. It was about money, everything I'd built, everything I owned. They wanted it all. That afternoon, I drove to the county recorder's office. I need to pull property records, I told the clerk. Which property? I gave her my home address. She typed into the computer. There's been recent activity on this one. What kind? A title search, filed 2 weeks ago. By who? She checked. Lila Buttler. I felt something cold settle in my chest. What else? That's it. Can I get copies? Sure. She printed the records. I paid and left. In the truck, I read through them. Lila had hired someone to search the title on the house, to see if there were any liens, any complications. She was preparing to sell. I called Frank. She's trying to sell the house, I said. She can't. Not without your signature. What if she forges it? Silence. Daniel, he said slowly. If she's willing to forge your signature, she's committing fraud. Serious fraud. So what do I do? File a preemptive injunction, block any sale, make it impossible for her to move forward. How fast can we do that? I'll file it today. Good. I hung up. Then I drove to the house, parked across the street. Watched. Lila came out at 3 p.m., got in her car, drove away. I waited 10 minutes. Then I walked up to the front door. It was locked. I used my key. Inside, the house was quiet, clean, everything in its place, except my office. The door was open. The desk was empty. The safe was gone. Not just open, gone. Someone had taken the entire safe. I pulled out my phone and called the police. I need to report a theft, I said. The officer who arrived was young, bored. He took notes, but didn't seem interested. You're sure it was stolen? He asked. It's gone. Could it have been moved? Without my permission? That's theft. He sighed and wrote it down. We'll investigate. When? When we can. He left. I stood in the empty office and realized something. They weren't just trying to take control. They were erasing me. One piece at a time. I spent the night at a different motel. Third one in a week. This time I paid for 2 nights up front, parked my truck where I could see it from the window, and didn't turn on the lights. The safe was gone. Not broken into. Gone. Which meant they'd hired someone to move it. Someone with tools and a truck. Someone who knew what they were doing. I called Frank in the morning. They took the safe, I said. From your office? Yes. When? Yesterday, while I was at the county recorder's office. Did you file a report? Yes. Police came out, took notes, didn't care. Frank was quiet for a moment. This changes things. How? They're escalating. They're not just lying anymore. They're actively destroying evidence. What can we do? File an emergency motion. Accuse them of evidence tampering. Request a full investigation. Will it work? Maybe. But Daniel, you need to be careful. If they're willing to steal a safe, they're willing to do worse. I know. I mean it. Don't go anywhere alone. Don't confront them. Just document everything and stay out of their way. I hung up. But I wasn't going to stay out of their way. I was going to meet them on mine. I drove to a construction site I'd worked 2 years ago. Unfinished development. Half-built houses. Empty lots. The developer had run out of money and abandoned the project. No one came here anymore. Perfect. I walked through the site, checking the structures. Most were just frames, wood and drywall, no doors or windows. But one of them was further along. Roof, walls, even some electrical work. I stepped inside. The space was open, concrete floor, exposed beams, a staircase leading to a second floor that was never finished. I pulled out my phone and took photos, measurements, angles. Then I left. On the way back to the truck, I saw someone watching me from across the lot. Howard. He was standing next to a car I didn't recognize, arms crossed, trying to look tough. I walked over. "What are you doing here?" I asked. "Following you." "Why?" "Mom wants to know where you're staying." "Tell her it's none of her business." He stepped closer. "You can't hide forever." "I'm not hiding." "Yeah, you are. You're scared." I looked at him. 19 years old. Still had acne on his chin. Still thought acting tough made him a man. "Go home, Howard." "Or what?" "Or nothing. Just go home." He smirked. "You're pathetic." I turned and walked away. Behind me, I heard him laugh. I got in my truck and drove off. In the mirror, I watched him get in his car and follow. He stayed behind me for 10 miles. Then I turned onto a side road. He followed. I led him through 3 more turns. Then I pulled into a gas station and parked. He parked across the street. I got out and went inside, bought a coffee, took my time. When I came back out, he was gone. But the white truck was there instead. Same one from before. Parked in the same spot Howard had been. I walked over. The driver's window rolled down. "Travis, you're making this harder than it needs to be," he said. "Am I?" "Lila just wants what's fair. Fair would be leaving me alone. She's your wife." "Not for long." His expression hardened. "You think filing for divorce will stop this?" "I think it'll make things clearer." "You're delusional." "Maybe." I walked back to my truck and got in. Travis pulled out and drove off. I waited 5 minutes. Then I followed. He went straight to the house. Parked in the driveway. Went inside. I parked down the street and watched. Through the window, I could see figures moving. Lila, Travis, Howard, Brooke. They were all there, planning. I turned on the audio recorder in my pocket and got out of the truck. Walked up the driveway. Stood outside the window. Their voices were muffled but clear enough. "Needs to be soon," Brooke was saying. "I know," Lila said. "But we have to be careful. He's documenting everything. So what do? We make him look unstable. Push him until he reacts." "How?" "Travis will handle it." I turned and walked back to the truck. Got in, drove away. The recorder had caught everything. That night, I met Frank at his office. "I have another recording," I said. I played it for him. When it finished, he leaned back in his chair. This is conspiracy. Can we use it? Absolutely. This proves intent. They're actively trying to sabotage you. What do? We file criminal charges, conspiracy to commit fraud, evidence tampering, stalking, all of it. How long will that take? Weeks, but the prosecutor will take it seriously. I don't have weeks. He looked at me. What are you planning, Daniel? I'm going to end this. How? My way. He shook his head. Don't do anything stupid. I won't. But I was lying. I drove back to the construction site that night, parked at the edge of the lot, walked through the half-finished houses until I found the one I'd scouted earlier. Inside, I started setting up. I brought a projector from my truck, an old one I'd used for client presentations, set it up on a folding table, aimed it at the back wall. Then I ran an extension cord from the generator outside, tested it. The projector turned on. The wall lit up. Perfect. I spent the next hour wiring speakers, hiding cables, setting up the laptop I'd borrowed from Ruth. By midnight, everything was ready. I stood in the empty room and imagined how it would play. They'd come here, I'd make sure of it, and when they did, I'd show them everything, every lie, every betrayal, every piece of evidence I'd collected, on the wall, for everyone to see, no judges, no lawyers, no rules, just the truth. I locked the generator shed and drove back to the motel. Tomorrow, I'd send the invitation. The message went out at 8 a.m., simple, direct. We need to talk. Final negotiation, no lawyers, just family, tomorrow night, 7 p.m. I sent it to Lila, to Brooke, to Howard, to Travis. Then I included an address, the construction site. I didn't explain why, didn't justify it, just sent it and waited. Lila replied first. This is ridiculous. We have nothing to negotiate. Then Brooke. Dad, this isn't the way to handle things. Then Travis. I'll be there. Howard didn't reply. I spent the rest of the day preparing. I drove to the site and checked everything, the projector, the speakers, the generator, all functional. Then I loaded the files onto the laptop, every video, every recording, every document, organized chronologically, labeled clearly. The story would tell itself. I tested the system twice. Both times it worked perfectly. By 6 p.m., I was ready. I sat in my truck and waited. At 6:45, headlights appeared at the edge of the lot. One car, then another, then a third. They were here. I got out and walked toward the house. Lila arrived first. She stepped out of her car and looked around. What is this place? She asked. Somewhere private. This is insane. Maybe. Brooke and Travis arrived next. Brooke looked nervous. Travis looked annoyed. Howard came last. He didn't say anything, just stood next to Lila and stared at the ground. Why are we here? Lila asked. Because we're going to settle this, I said. There's nothing to settle. Yes, there is. I gestured toward the house. Inside. Lila hesitated. Then she walked in. The others followed. I came in last and closed the door behind me. The projector was already on. The wall glowed white. What is this? Brooke asked. You'll see. I pressed play on the laptop. The first video appeared on the wall. Lila, in Howard's room, whispering instructions, handing him the wax key. The room went silent. Where did you get that? Lila asked. I recorded it. That's illegal. So is conspiracy. The video kept playing, one clip after another. The dinner conversation, the safe, the forged medical letters, the title search, every piece of evidence I'd collected. Lila's face went pale. Turn it off. No. Daniel, turn it off. Everyone needs to see this. Brooke stepped forward. Dad, please. Sit down. She sat. The video continued. Travis stalking me, the police report, the hearing transcript, everything. By the time it finished, no one was speaking. Lila stood up. This doesn't prove anything. It proves everything. You manipulated the footage. I didn't. You're lying. No, Lila, you are. She turned to Travis. Get the laptop. He moved toward the table. I stepped in front of him. Don't. Get out of my way, he said. No. He shoved me. I didn't shove back. I just stepped aside and let him stumble forward. Then I pulled out my phone and showed him the screen. That's a live feed to the police, I said. Everything happening here is being recorded and sent to them in real time. You touch me, you touch the equipment, you'll be on camera committing assault. Travis froze. You're bluffing, he said. Try me. He didn't. I put the phone away and turned to Lila. You spent months planning this, I said. You manipulated our son. You lied to doctors. You tried to steal everything I've built. You don't deserve it, she said. Maybe not, but it's mine. You're a weak man, Daniel. You always have been. Maybe, but I'm still standing. Her face twisted. This isn't over. Yes, it is. I turned to Howard. You helped her. You lied for her. You stole for me. He didn't look up. Why? I asked. Because she said you didn't care about us, he said quietly. And you believed her? She's my mother. I'm your father. He looked up. His eyes were red. I'm sorry. Too late. I turned back to Lila. You wanted my life. You wanted my money. You wanted everything. You're going to give it to me anyway, she said. In the divorce. No, I'm not. The courts will side with me. Not after they see this. She smiled. You think showing a video changes anything? You're pathetic. Maybe. I walked over to the laptop and opened a new file. Howard's phone screen appeared on the wall. Text messages, dozens of them. Let's try the bruise on the left arm tomorrow. Dad won't see it coming. Make sure you sound scared when you call the police. Howard's face went white. Where did you get those? He asked. You left your phone unlocked, I said. I cloned it 2 weeks ago. Lila turned to him. You idiot. I didn't know. Shut up. I turned off the projector. The room went dark. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to leave. All of you. You're going to drop the guardianship case. You're going to stop stalking me. You're going to stay away from my business. Or what? Travis asked. Or I send everything to the prosecutor. Fraud, conspiracy, evidence tampering, all of it. You're bluffing. Am I? He didn't answer. I walked to the door and opened it. Get out. No one moved. Now. Lila stood up. This isn't over, Daniel. Yes, it is. She walked toward the door, stopped in front of me. You're going to regret this, she said. I already do. She left. Brooke followed. Then Travis. Howard stayed. Dad, he started. Go. I didn't want to. I don't care. He stood there for a moment. Then he walked out. I closed the door and stood in the empty room. The projector hummed softly. The generator outside chugged along. Everything was quiet. I walked over to the laptop and saved the files, backed them up, sent copies to Frank, to Ruth, to the cloud. Then I turned everything off. Outside, the cars were gone. I locked the generator shed and got in my truck. Drove back to the motel. For the first time in months, I felt something close to peace. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was afraid, because I was waiting for them to regroup, to come back, to try again. But they didn't. Morning came, quiet, cold, no messages, no calls. I made coffee in the motel room and checked my phone. Nothing from Lila, nothing from Brooke or Howard. One message from Ruth. I saw the files you sent. Are you okay? I replied. Yes. Do you need anything? Not right now. Call me if you do. I turned off the phone and got dressed. Then I drove to the construction site. Everything was still there. The projector, the laptop, the generator. No one had come back. I packed it all into the truck and drove to the storage unit. On the way, I saw the white truck again, parked at a red light. engine running. Travis. He saw me. Didn't move. Just stared. I stared back. Then the light turned green and I drove away. He didn't follow. At the storage unit, I unloaded everything, locked it up, drove to the bank. I need to access my safe deposit box, I told the teller. She led me to the vault. I opened the box and added the latest recordings, the files, the backups. Then I closed it and left. Next stop, Frank's office. He was waiting when I arrived. You did it, he said. Did what? Scared them off. For now. He leaned back in his chair. I got a call this morning. From Lila's lawyer. He's withdrawing from the case. Why? He didn't say, but I think he saw the evidence. Good. There's more, Frank said. The prosecutor's office called. They're opening an investigation. Fraud, conspiracy, evidence tampering, everything you filed. How long will it take? Months, maybe a year. But they're taking it seriously. I nodded. Daniel, Frank said, you need to be prepared. This is going to get ugly. It's already ugly. Uglier. They're going to fight. They're going to lie. They're going to try to turn this around on you. Let them try. He smiled. You've changed. Had to. I left the office and drove to the house, parked across the street. Watched. No one was home. I used my key and went inside. The office was still empty. The safe still gone. But the rest of the house was intact. I walked through the rooms. Kitchen, living room, bedroom. Everything looked normal, except it wasn't. In the bedroom, I found Lila's suitcase, half-packed, clothes thrown in haphazardly. She was leaving. I closed the suitcase and left the room. In the kitchen, I found a note on the counter. You win, for now. I crumpled it and threw it away. Then I called a locksmith. I need my locks changed, I said. When? Today. I can be there in an hour. Good. I hung up and sat down at the kitchen table. For the first time in months, I was alone in my own house. The locksmith arrived on time, changed every lock, front door, back door, office, garage, gave me new keys. You want the old ones? He asked. No. He left. I locked the door behind him and stood in the entryway. The house felt different, lighter, like something heavy had been removed. I walked to the office and started cleaning, threw away old papers, organized the desk, replaced the filing cabinet. By evening, the room looked normal again. I ordered pizza and ate it at the kitchen table. Then I went to bed, in my own house, in my own bed. For the first time in weeks, I slept like I hadn't slept in years. The next morning, I woke up to a phone call. Unknown number. I answered. Mr. Buttler? Yes. This is Detective Sarah Monroe with the county prosecutor's office. We need to ask you some questions about the guardianship case. I'll answer anything you need. Can you come in today? Yes. 2 p.m.? I'll be there. I hung up and got dressed. The prosecutor's office was downtown in the same building as the courthouse. I arrived early and waited in the lobby. At 2 p.m., a woman in a dark suit came out. Mr. Buttler? Yes. I'm Detective Monroe. Follow me. We went to a small conference room. She gestured to a chair, and I sat. We've reviewed the evidence you provided, she said. It's compelling. Thank you. But we need to verify a few things, starting with the recordings. When did you make them? I told her everything, the dates, the locations, the methods. She took notes. And the phone cloning? She asked. 2 weeks ago. Howard left his phone on the kitchen counter. I used a program I found online. That's illegal. I know. She looked up. You're admitting to a crime. Yes. Why? Because it was the only way to prove what they were doing. She wrote something down. Mr. Buttler, I have to tell you, this complicates things. The evidence you gathered might not be admissible in court. I understand. But it gives us a starting point. We can subpoena the phone records, get the originals, build a case. Good. She closed her notebook. We'll be in touch. I left. Outside, I sat in my truck and thought about what she'd said. The evidence might not be admissible, which meant everything I'd done, all the recordings, all the planning, might not matter. But I didn't care, because it had already worked. Lila was gone. The case was dropped. I had my house back. That was enough. I drove home. When I got there, I found Howard sitting on the front steps. He stood up when he saw me. "Dad," he said, "what do you want? I need to talk to you." "About what?" "About what happened." "There's nothing to talk about." "Yes, there is." I walked past him and unlocked the door. He followed me inside. "Dad, please, I'm sorry." "For what?" "For everything. For lying. For helping Mom. For—" "Stop." He stopped. I turned to face him. "You made your choice, Howard. You chose her over me." "I didn't know what she was doing." "Yes, you did. I thought—" "You thought it would be easy. You thought you'd get money and I wouldn't fight back." He looked down. "I'm sorry. That doesn't change anything." "I know." We stood there in silence. "What do you want?" I asked. "I want to fix this." "You can't." "I can try." I shook my head. "It's too late." "Dad, you need to leave." He didn't move. "Now," I said. He turned and walked out. I locked the door behind him, stood there for a moment. Then I went to the kitchen and made dinner. Alone. 2 days passed. Quiet. No messages, no visits. I went back to work. My employees didn't ask questions, just welcomed me back and kept working. I took on a new project. Small renovation for a client downtown. Nothing complicated, just enough to keep busy. But I kept watching, checking my mirrors, checking my phone, waiting for them to make another move. They didn't. On the 3rd day, Ruth called. "Have you heard?" she asked. "Heard what?" "Lila filed for divorce." "When?" "This morning. I saw it in the public records." "Good. Daniel, this is going to get messy." "I know. She's going to fight for everything. The house, the business, everything. Let her try. You need a lawyer. I have Frank. Not for criminal charges, for the divorce. I'll handle it." She sighed. "You're being stubborn." "Maybe. Just be careful." "I will." I hung up. That afternoon I got the divorce papers in the mail. I read through them slowly. Lila was asking for half of everything. The house, the business, savings, retirement accounts. She claimed I'd been abusive, controlling, dangerous, all lies, but lies that looked convincing on paper. I called Frank. "I got the divorce papers," I said. "I'll review them. But Daniel, you need a family law attorney. This isn't my specialty." "Can you recommend someone?" "Yes, her name's Patricia Hollis. She's good. Aggressive." "Set it up." "I will." I hung up and went back to reading the papers. At the bottom, there was a note. "This could have been easier. You made it hard." I crumpled the note and threw it away. The next day, I met Patricia Hollis. She was in her 40s. Sharp suit, sharper eyes. "Frank told me about your case," she said. "It's complicated." "I know. Your wife is claiming abuse. That's serious." "It's not true. I believe you, but we need to prove it. I have recordings, evidence." "Good. I'll need copies of everything." I handed her a folder. She flipped through it. "This is thorough," she said. "I had to be." She looked up. "Mr. Buttler, I'm going to be honest with you. This is going to take a long time, and it's going to cost a lot." "How much?" "Tens of thousands, maybe more." "I'll pay it." "Good, because if you want to win, you need to be prepared to fight." "I am." She smiled. "Then let's get started." Over the next 2 weeks, Patricia built the case. She reviewed the recordings, the documents, the evidence. She filed motions, requested depositions, subpoenaed phone records. And slowly, the case started shifting in my favor. Lila's lawyer tried to block the evidence, claimed it was illegally obtained. Patricia argued back, proved that I'd only recorded conversations in my own home, proved that the phone cloning was a violation, but that the content was still relevant. The judge allowed most of it. Lila's case started falling apart. Her claims of abuse didn't match the evidence. Her financial records showed she'd been moving money into hidden accounts. Her medical statements were contradicted by the actual doctors. By the end of the month, her lawyer withdrew. She was alone. I should have felt victorious. But I didn't. I just felt tired. One night, I got a call from Brooke. "Dad," she said, "we need to talk." "About what?" "About Mom. She's not doing well." "That's not my problem. She's your wife." "Not for long." Brooke was quiet for a moment. "Dad, I know what we did was wrong, but she's still my mother. And I'm still your father." "I know. Do you?" "Yes." I hung up. The next day I got a message from Howard. "Can we meet? Please." I didn't reply. 2 days later, he showed up at my office. "Dad," he said, "I need to talk to you. I'm working. This is important." I put down the paperwork and looked at him. "What?" "Mom's talking about doing something bad." "Like what?" "I don't know. But she's desperate. She keeps saying you ruined her life." "I didn't ruin anything. She did this to herself." "I know, but Dad, I'm worried." "About what?" "About what she might do." I stood up. "If she tries anything, call the police." "I will." "Good." He turned to leave, then stopped. "Dad," he said, "I really am sorry." "I know." He left. I sat back down and stared at the wall. Lila was desperate, which made her dangerous. I called Frank. "Lila might do something," I said. "Like what?" "I don't know, but I need to be ready." "I'll put a note in the file. If anything happens, we'll have documentation." "Good." I hung up. That night, I installed cameras around the house. Front door, back door, garage, all of them recording. All of them backed up to the cloud. Then I went to bed and waited. The message came at midnight. "Final meeting, tomorrow, same place, 7 p.m., come alone." From Lila. I stared at the screen. Then I replied, "I'll be there." I called Frank. "Don't go," he said. "I have to. Daniel, this is a trap. Maybe, but I need to end this. Let the courts handle it." "No," he sighed. "At least let me come with you." "No lawyers." "Then take someone, Ruth, a friend, anyone. I'll be fine. Daniel, I'll call you when it's over." I hung up. The next day, I prepared. I checked the cameras at the construction site, all functional. I checked the generator, full tank. I checked the projector, ready. Then I loaded the truck with everything I needed. Audio recorder, dash cam, phone, everything recording, everything backed up. If this was a trap, I'd have proof. At 6 p.m. I drove to the site. The lot was empty, no cars, no lights. I parked and got out, walked to the house. The door was unlocked. Inside, the projector was still set up. The laptop was still on the table, but someone had been here. I could tell. The generator was running. The projector was warm. Someone had used it recently. I turned on the laptop. The screen lit up. A video was already loaded. Not one of mine. A video of me, sitting in my truck, walking through the site, setting up the equipment. They'd been watching me, recording me. The door opened behind me. I turned. Lila walked in. Then Brooke. Then Travis. Howard came last. "Surprised?" Lila asked. "No. You should be." She walked over to the laptop and pressed play. The video continued. More footage of me, setting up, planning, recording. "See?" she said. "You're the one who's obsessed. You're the one who's dangerous." "That's not true." "It doesn't matter. This is what the judge will see." Travis stepped forward. "You're going to give Lila everything she wants, or we're going to the police with this." "Go ahead." "We will." "Good, because I've already sent everything to the prosecutor." Lila's smile faltered. "You're bluffing." "No, I'm not." I pulled out my phone and showed her the screen. Emails, timestamps, confirmation receipts, everything sent, everything documented. "You can show them whatever you want," I said, "but they already have the real story." Lila's face went white. You're lying, she said. No, Lila, you are. Travis moved toward me. Give me the phone. No. Give it to me. He grabbed my arm. I yanked it back. Don't touch me. Or what? Or you'll be on camera committing assault. Again. He looked around, saw the cameras I'd set up, hidden in the corners, recording everything. He stepped back. Lila turned to Howard. Do something. Howard didn't move. Howard, she screamed. No, he said quietly. What? I'm done, Mom. Her face twisted. You're useless. Maybe. She turned back to me. You think you've won? I know I have. This isn't over. Yes, it is. She walked toward the laptop, reached for it. I stepped in front of her. Don't. Get out of my way. No. She shoved me. I didn't shove back, just stood there. Move, she screamed. No. She turned to Travis. Get him out of here. Travis looked at the cameras, then at me. No, he said. Lila's face went red. You're all worthless. She grabbed the laptop and threw it. It hit the wall and shattered. The room went silent. There, she said. Now you have nothing. I pulled out my phone. It's all backed up. Her face went blank. Multiple locations, I said. Cloud storage, safe deposit box, Frank's office, Ruth's house. You can't erase it. She stared at me. You wanted my life, I said. You wanted my money. You wanted everything I built. But you couldn't just ask. You had to lie. You had to manipulate. You had to destroy. You don't deserve any of it, she said. Maybe not. But it's mine. Howard stepped forward. Dad. Stay back. I just want to. Stay back. He stopped. Then he stepped toward the table, reached for something, a flash drive, plugged into the broken laptop. Is this the backup? He asked. One of them. He grabbed it and ran for the door. I didn't chase him, just watched. He made it 3 steps outside before he tripped, fell, hit the ground hard. There was a metal rod sticking up from the unfinished foundation. He'd landed on it. He screamed. Everyone ran outside. Howard was on the ground clutching his leg, red staining his jeans. Not a lot, but enough. Lila knelt beside him. Howard, are you okay? It hurts, he gasped. Can you stand? I don't know. Travis pulled out his phone. I'm calling an ambulance. I stood in the doorway and watched. Howard looked up at me, his face twisted in pain, in shame. Dad, he started. You did this to yourself, I said. Lila turned. You pushed him. No, I didn't. You did. I saw it. The cameras saw everything. She looked up at the cameras, then back at me. Her face crumpled. You destroyed us, she said. No, I said. You did. The ambulance arrived 10 minutes later. They loaded Howard onto a stretcher. He'd be fine. The wound wasn't deep, just painful, humiliating. Lila rode with him. Brooke and Travis followed in their car. I stayed behind, walked back into the house, picked up Howard's phone from where he'd dropped it, unlocked it. His messages were still there. Every lie, every plan, every betrayal. I connected the phone to the projector, mirrored the screen onto the wall, scrolled through the messages slowly. Let's try the bruise on the left arm tomorrow. Dad won't see it coming. Make sure you sound scared when you call the police. He's weaker than we thought. This is going to be easier than Mom said. I stood there, reading, remembering. Then I picked up my phone and took photos of the wall, sent them to Frank, to Ruth, to Patricia, to the prosecutor. Then I turned off the projector, walked outside, locked the generator shed, got in my truck, and drove away. The night was clear, cold. The stars were out. I drove back to my house, not theirs. Inside, I locked the door, turned on the lights, sat down at the kitchen table, and I smiled. For the first time in months, I smiled. Not because I'd won, because they'd lost, And they'd lost because of what they'd done to themselves. All their planning, all their lies, all their betrayal, it had all collapsed. Not because I was stronger, because I was smarter, because I'd turned their own weapons against them. I pulled out my phone and looked at the photos. Howard's messages, bright on the wall, evidence they couldn't erase, proof they couldn't deny. I thought about calling Frank, telling him it was over, but I didn't, because it wasn't over. Not yet. Tomorrow the prosecutor would see the messages. Tomorrow the investigation would move forward. Tomorrow they'd face the consequences of what they'd done. But tonight was mine. I stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the street was empty. Quiet. No one watching. No one following. Just me. In my house. On my ground. I thought about Howard, lying in the hospital, his leg bandaged, his pride shattered. I thought about Lila, sitting beside him, realizing she'd lost. I thought about Brooke, driving home, wondering what came next. I thought about Travis, planning his exit, looking for someone else to blame. And I thought about myself, standing here, alive, free, victorious, not because I'd destroyed them, because I'd let them destroy themselves. I turned away from the window, walked to my office, sat down at the desk, and I opened Howard's phone one more time, scrolled to the chat with Lila, the last message. "You wanted my life, Howard. Now you can live with what's left of yours." I typed it out, sent it, then I turned off the phone, leaned back in my chair, and smiled. They'd come for my life, for my money, for everything I'd built, and I'd given them exactly what they deserved. Nothing.